The One Thing by Gary Keller and Papasan is a business-centered, self-help book about finding a more narrow focus in life. Keller's business life was busy and cluttered until he came to the realization that, by stepping down from his position as chief executive officer and focusing on building the company through a concentrated task, he could facilitate stronger growth than what he created by being involved in many different tasks. Just as small dominoes can topple larger dominoes, big achievements can be gained through a series of apparently minor actions that build momentum over time. A narrow focus on one product is evident in many of the most successful companies, including Apple and Intel. Some of the most successful people embarked on their path to success as the result of one personal connection. They also often have shared a single-minded focus on one subject or passion, like a sport or country. One obstacle that inhibits focus on a single thing is the belief that every task is equally important for progress, even though the Pareto principle states that a majority of results can arise from disproportionately little effort. Another obstacle is the belief that multitasking is possible and makes people more efficient, although in reality it tends to decrease work quality. Some people believe that discipline is the key to efficiency, when habits are much more effective. They may also believe that willpower is an unlimited resource that individuals possess innately, that the best life is one with a constant and equal balance between work and home, or that starting with big expectations or outcomes in mind is dangerous or a waste of time. But all of these opinions prevent focus. Finding the best place to apply focused attention starts by asking oneself what single thing will make other tasks easier or irrelevant. Versions of this question that apply to specific goals should be ambitious and specific, and answers should be thoroughly researched. To make focus and the success that it creates into a habit requires consistent application and reminders. Using focus to pursue individual fulfillment will bring happiness. That fulfillment can be in the pursuit of a long-term priority, which can be broken down into short-term priorities that build toward that goal. Day-to-day strategies that facilitate focus include blocking out a period of time for work on that focus, working toward mastery of a skill or subject, using purposeful rather than entrepreneurial thinking, and building accountability. Success also requires the ability to turn down opportunities, embrace chaos, maintain health, and build a supportive environment. The best strategy for productivity is to do fewer things, and to focus on them completely. Achieving large things does not require taking on a variety of tasks or even a single enormous task. Instead, the best strategy is to narrow focus to only the things that make future achievements easier and then build momentum over time. By doing fewer things that are more focused on a single achievement, energies are concentrated on the areas where the most progress is made with less effort. A task that obviously requires focus more than it requires multitasking is writing a novel. While the author can perform some accessory tasks that make the writing better, including diagramming plot lines, researching the setting, and brainstorming ideas for characters, the primary task of writing a novel is the act of sitting down to write. The planning of the work supplements the writing process, but this work does not stand in for writing in a way that impacts the end result. In fact, writing the narrative can negate the need for research if the setting or plot can be planned without it. The best companies often focus on a single product, industry, or niche. Companies such as Apple, Intel, and Coors focus on a single product, or at least on one product at a time, allowing them to concentrate on becoming the best available product rather than branching into many markets. Successful people often have one immensely beneficial relationship in their lives that sets them on the path to success, and they are narrowly focused on mastering their skills. There are, of course, examples of enormous companies with products in numerous markets that are generally very successful, but they seldom represent the household names that single-focus companies become. For example, companies such as Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, and Kraft create a wide range of household products and food, but they do not inspire fans who seek out their branding as much as Apple consumers, who buy more Apple products if they already own one. Similarly, Budweiser, which applied its company name to its most popular product, has strong brand recognition with many people. If people say they are Apple users, one can assume that they use Apple's computer products because that is Apple's focus. The products that drive brand loyalty for Procter & Gamble are harder to determine. Procter & Gamble makes many household products, and its unfocused approach means that customers might associate that company name with a variety of brands with which they have varying experiences, positive and negative. Common assumptions about productivity, including those involving work ethic, multitasking, and setting realistic goals, are all contradicted by the scientific evidence of what creates productivity. Multitasking, a skill that is commonly considered to be essential to productivity, is technically impossible for humans because the brain can only focus on one thing at a time. What looks like discipline is usually a collection of strongly developed habits. While productive people seem to have an endless supply of willpower, that resource is actually finite. The best results come from aiming as high as possible, admitting that not every single thing on a to-do list deserves full attention, and exchanging work-life balance for periods of extreme focus on work broken by extended periods of greater focus on family. Misconceptions surrounding productivity seem to arise mostly from humans' lack of familiarity with how their brains work. If a student observes a mentor exercising an admirable level of willpower, the student might assume that the mentor always has that willpower because he or she did not get to see where the willpower failed earlier in the day, for instance, when the mentor could not resist a donut tray at a catered lunch. Seeing someone graduate with a law degree misses the years it took to build the studying habits required to earn the right grades to get into law school in the first place. Other assumptions arise from how people see others achieving huge goals like starting a successful company, since the leader of the company takes a majority of the credit, even if he or she failed at the same goal in the past, aimed for an even bigger company goal and missed, or had to sacrifice time with family in order to get the task done. Finding the right place to apply focused attention requires individuals to ask what single thing they can do to make the rest of their tasks easier or unnecessary. The focus question is composed of 3 parts. It refers to doing just one thing immediately. That thing should be effective, and it should be the most impactful possible thing available at that time. It can be applied with reference to a time frame, such as asking what the most important thing for a day or hour is. It can also be applied to any area of work or personal life. For example, someone might use the focusing question to achieve a goal like arranging a fundraiser for a non-profit organization. The answer to the focusing question for the time between now and the fundraiser would obviously be to plan a successful fundraiser. A weekly answer might be to get commitments from new sponsors. A daily answer might be to reach out to an interested company and provide it the sponsorship information packet. And the immediate answer might be to call that company's CEO or community relations manager to ask for his or her support. If successful, these small effort tasks make additional work for sponsor recruitment unnecessary. At the outset of the planning stage, a task that would make the overall goal easier would be the creation of the sponsorship information packet. On the day of the event, the day goal would be to run the event successfully, the hour goal might be to make the keynote speaker's address go smoothly, and the immediate goal might be to get the speaker a glass of water for a scratchy throat. Applying the focusing question to a particular task means making it both ambitious and specific. The answer should be well-researched and supported by experience. The focusing question can be adapted to any decision on how to apply effort. A great question is both ambitious and specific, such as asking how to double sales in 6 months as opposed to a 5% increase over a year. The answer should also be great, and ideally it exists at the very edge of possibility instead of being easy to attain. Finding a great answer requires research. Most people are likely to go through an entire day without thinking of a truly great question that is both large in scope and specific in nature. These are the kinds of questions that innovators devote years of their lives trying to answer, such as the question of how to explain the expansion of the universe, or how to make a computer processor small enough to fit inside a mobile device. Those questions are ambitious in that they address the fundamental properties of the universe and the entire consumer electronics market, respectively. They are also specific, with goals built in. The answers have been the basis for theories of dark matter, in the case of the universe's expansion, and the explosion of the mobile phone industry, in the case of the portable processor. Great focusing questions for daily goals need not be so expansive, but they can include asking what the best thing to eat for dinner would be, in keeping with a focused goal of improving health and well-being, and answering with a thoroughly researched recipe for a healthy and comforting dish. Making a habit of success and complete focus takes practice asking and answering the focusing question. It also requires reminders, which can be visual or reinforced by supportive people. Like most skills, focusing on a single thing requires practice before it becomes a habit. That practice involves stopping to ask the focusing question before choosing to do a task in work or personal life. Reminders to ask that question can include visual cues in strategic locations or creating a supportive network of friends and family who will also hold the individual accountable for making focused choices. Practicing focus might sound like a meditative task, but it need not involve seeking the inner self or even much dedicated time. Instead, for example, Stephen, a teacher, might integrate a practice of focus into his daily routine by dedicating a little time to thinking about the tasks to complete in the day. He would choose one as the most important task that will make others easier, such as grading draft papers early to hand them back to students, making later coaching sessions with students easier and more productive. Then, he can set up reminders to reassess his progress toward that goal between every class session. Anytime he realizes that he is behind on his schedule of paper grading, he can recommit to the task with a reminder of how important it is. If he is ahead of schedule or completed grading the papers, he can spend the rest of the day working on less taxing responsibilities and plan the next day's most important task early. Focusing on a single purpose can bring happiness while pursuing fulfillment. Happiness is not guaranteed by financial success, but it is linked to fulfillment and pursuit of a purpose. People who are on the path to fulfillment through single-minded focus on a passion or purpose will be happier than people who have achieved a goal and quit trying to achieve more. The idea that people can be happy when pursuing a purpose, even if they left behind goals of making money or being famous, is so widely accepted that it has also become a trope in modern popular culture. Media is filled with examples of people who quit their jobs to do something grand but unusual. One example is Roz Savage, who quit her job to row across the planet's oceans. Her purpose now is bringing awareness to the environmental degradation that threatens ocean biomass. This was a huge and unlikely goal when she was working as a management consultant. But Savage is certainly more widely recognized and appreciated now than she was at her day job. And she is bringing attention to an issue close to her heart, which adds up to a happier and more productive life. Time blocking is the key strategy to protect the time required to focus on accomplishing more through fewer tasks. Individuals must schedule uninterrupted blocks of time to work without distractions, time to properly unwind from a hard day of work, and time to plan the next few weeks or months of focused work time. Time blocking is a more rigid form of scheduling than people generally use in the business world today because modern scheduling focuses on the interruptions rather than protecting long, unbroken blocks of focused work time. A typical schedule might include 2 meetings during the day, but no specific plans for the work to take place in between the meetings. Normally, that would be decided when that time comes. However, time blocking would push those meetings to the end of the day so that the focused work can occur without planning for the meeting, and the goal for the day would be carefully determined according to which task would be the most valuable one to complete in order to pursue the end goal. People should attempt to master their needed skills, use more purposeful thinking rather than entrepreneurial thinking, and create habits of accountability rather than a resort to a victim complex. The 3 commitments that enable productivity are: a commitment to mastering the skills needed to accomplish the goal, a commitment to thinking with purpose and finding new solutions, and a commitment to being accountable. These commitments have a shift in perspective in common, from acceptance of limitations to rejection of limitations. Rather than accepting that a skill can only be improved a certain amount in a given time, pursuing mastery requires individuals be able to believe that they can become one of the best at a given skill. Purposeful thinking is not driven by circumstances, but instead by single-minded pursuit of a goal. This thought process can find ways to change the circumstances to make the goal more likely to be achieved. The accountability cycle requires people to move immediately from a setback or obstacle to finding its cause and seeking to change it or prevent it from happening again, an approach that is epitomized in the use of after-action reports to examine the sources of errors and build systems resilient to those errors. 4 things that obstruct productivity include being unable to turn down opportunities, avoidance of chaotic situations, inattention to personal health, and an unsupportive environment at work or home. For example, these four obstacles apply directly to a person, such as Allison, who is seeking a promotion that would require additional responsibilities. Even though she should be focusing on making herself the ideal candidate for the new position, she might undermine herself by accepting a responsibility from a different department that has no bearing on her current work, simply because she dislikes turning down anyone who asks for help. She might also be conflicted about moving into a new position that would be unfamiliar and require her to learn more under pressure, when her current life is not so chaotic. The stress could cause her to neglect her health, and she might have to stay home from work during a critical period due to a flu caught with a weakened immune system. And if her husband and children dislike the idea of her work hours changing or becoming more demanding, they might discourage her from applying.